Have you ever felt like you're just spinning your wheels? You're putting in the hours, you're writing code, building projects, but your career just isn't taking off? Well, you are not alone. So many developers get stuck, and it's usually because of a few super common but really critical mistakes. Okay, let's dive in and break down exactly what they are and, more importantly, how you can fix them.
This is the big question, isn't it? The one that keeps you up at night. You've built things, you've followed all the tutorials, but for some reason, the skills you're learning just aren't translating into that job offer or promotion. It feels like something's missing. Well, it often boils down to 4 specific habits. 4 things that can seriously sabotage your growth, and you might not even realize you're doing them. We're going to walk through each one step by step so you can spot them in your own routine and start building a much stronger path forward. First up, the big one, jumping straight into the hot new framework, like React or Next.js. I mean, we see them everywhere, right? We hear they're powerful, and we feel this massive pressure to learn them right now. But this rush to the finish line often means we skip the most important part of the race entirely. Think about it like this. The fundamentals, pure JavaScript, that's the engine of a car. It's the core logic, the power that makes everything actually run. Frameworks, they're like the shiny car body. They give it structure, make it look good, but they are completely useless without the engine. If you don't really get how JavaScript handles asynchronous code, you'll never truly understand why React's use effect hook behaves the way it does. And if you only know how to drive the car but have zero idea how the engine works, what happens when it breaks down? You're stranded. Helpless. And trust me, this is not just some theory. I made this exact mistake. Early in my career, I learned jQuery before I truly understood JavaScript. And yeah, things worked until they didn't. The second something broke, I was completely lost. I had no clue how to debug it, I couldn't fix it, and my confidence just vanished. It was only when I went back and really mastered the fundamentals that everything finally started to click. So the fix is actually pretty simple. It's a 2-step process. First, master the language. Really understand it. Get deep into concepts like closures in JavaScript, which, by the way, are the very foundation for how a ton of React hooks work. Once you've built that solid engine, then you go learn the framework. You won't just use it better, you'll have the confidence to actually debug it and fix it when things go wrong.
Okay, that leads us right into mistake number 2, and it builds perfectly on our first point. This is something pretty much every single one of us has done, copying and pasting code from a tutorial without really understanding it. Come on, let's be honest, we've all been there.
The real problem here is the difference between the what and the why. The what is just the code itself. You type what the instructor types, your project works, awesome. But the why is where the real learning happens. Why did we use that function? Why is this database connection structured this way? Why is this one specific line necessary? If you don't know the why, you haven't learned how to solve a problem. You've only learned how to copy a solution. So here's the real acid test. Ask yourself this. If you had to build a totally different project tomorrow, could you take the concepts from that tutorial and actually apply them? If the answer is, maybe not, that's a huge sign you're stuck in the what cycle. The whole goal is to understand the logic so deeply that you can adapt it to any new challenge that comes your way. All right, on to our third mistake, and oh boy, this is a big one. It's the habit of avoiding the official documentation. For so many of us, the docs just feel intimidating, or maybe a little dry compared to a friendly video tutorial. And hey, if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. Get this, nearly 70% of beginners say they actively avoid the docs. But here's the secret the pros know. Learning to navigate the documentation is a genuine superpower. You have to start thinking of the docs as pure gold. Seriously, it is the single, ultimate source of truth for any tool you're using. It's where the creators themselves explain their philosophy, their design choices, and all the powerful features that most tutorials will never even touch on. It's like getting a direct line to the mind of the person who built the thing. And in an industry that changes as fast as ours, this is absolutely critical. A tutorial from 6 months ago, it could already be out of date, leading you down a path of errors and frustration. The documentation, on the other hand, is always the most current, up-to-date resource. It doesn't just show you one way to do something, it shows you all the ways and explains why each one exists. And that brings us to our final mistake. This is the one that really separates the hobbyists from the pros. It's thinking your job is done the second the code works on your own computer. So many beginners see deployment and infrastructure as, well, someone else's problem.
The famous last words of so many developers. But it works on my machine. We've all heard it. Maybe we've even said it. But that phrase is a giant red flag. It means there's a huge disconnect between your little development world and the real world, the production environment, where actual users are going to be clicking around. What works perfectly for you can, and often does, break spectacularly when it goes live. See, when you start deploying your own projects, you're forced to ask much bigger questions. How is this thing going to scale if 1,000 people sign up tomorrow? Is this database query actually efficient, or is it going to crumble under a real-world load? You start to think about the entire life cycle of your code, and that forces you to write better, more robust, production-ready code from day one. So, there you have it. The 4 mistakes: rushing frameworks, copying without understanding, avoiding the docs, and ignoring deployment. But look, just knowing about them isn't enough. The real key here is to make a conscious shift in your mindset. Let's recap this with a simple guide. Instead of rushing to frameworks, commit to mastering the fundamentals first. Instead of copying code blindly, force yourself to ask why for every single line you write. Instead of avoiding the documentation, start treating it as your absolute source of truth. And instead of stopping at your local machine, own your code all the way from your laptop to a live deployed application. These mindset shifts, this is what separates a developer who gets stuck from one who just keeps growing and succeeding. It's not about being perfect overnight. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing to learn the right way. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Looking at this list, which one of these mistakes are you going to start correcting today?